in. All right, welcome to the Jim Acosta Show, and it's another day that ends in Y in Donald Trump's assault on American democracy. It's also another day that ends in Y in Trump's assault on American allies. NATO members are furious with Trump after he told Fox that countries in the alliance stayed off the front lines during the war in Afghanistan. There are more disturbing videos, meanwhile, coming out of the ICE raids in Minneapolis and across the country. Let's discuss with YouTube and social media star Brian Tyler Cohen. Brian, it's been far too long. I'm glad we were able to do this. How are you? How's it going?
Jim, I'm doing all right. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it, and congrats on what you're continuing to build. Very, very, very excited to see what your platform has grown into, and that you're embracing this independent media space.
Oh man, I love it, and we should talk about that at the end of this, because to me it's really critical to just about everything right now that this continue to flourish and thrive and grow. And you were kind of at the forefront of this with some other folks, and it's just so important right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
especially in light of the capitulation that we're seeing by a lot of
yeah,
these legacy media outlets. Like, you would think, kind of looking at the size of these outlets, that like they are too big to fail, but in fact, because they're so big, because they're so over leveraged, it's really easy for Trump to exploit them, because he knows their weak
yeah.
spots. He knows where they need government approvals. He knows where somebody at the top needs to curry favor with him for some reason, and he exploits that every single time. And it's worked for CBS, it's worked for ABC News, it's worked for Meta and Washington Post, and it will continue to work, because there isn't the organizing that we need to see. What's so funny about that is, like, back during the Obama years, I think there was one point at which Fox was under attack or something like that. And you'll be able to
Yes,
speak on this better than I was. But all of the other news outlets came to Fox's aid. And
right.
and so eventually the administration relented. And yet now it's the complete opposite. You've got AP, for example, was barred from the press briefing room. And, whereas there could have been a really effective boycott, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, and to your point, I mean, I think it was a couple of things. One was one of the seats in the briefing room came open. This was a while back. This might have been during the Bush administration, and Fox wanted that front seat in the briefing room, and the other networks went to battle on behalf of Fox to get them that. That might have been Obama, it might have been Bush. It was in that time frame.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was Ed Henry, who was a Fox correspondent, was getting shut out of briefings and stuff. And the Correspondents Association came forward and said, "You can't do it." I mean, it's just time and again. And it's funny you mentioned all this, because in a little later, I'm going to talk to Juliet Jeske with Decoding Fox News. She does a great job busting Fox for all their funny business over there. And you're so right on CBS. I mean, when Donald Trump feels comfortable enough to say to the anchor of the CBS Evening News that I got you that job, I mean, this is something weird is going on right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
It seems to me. Yeah,
And the sad part is, like, they don't recognize that engaging in these deals or selling your soul to Trump doesn't buy you the goodwill that you think it buys you. All it does is show Trump that you're weak, that you could be bought, which is why he's never like, "Oh, you know what? CBS and ABC paid me my $16 million. They're good. They're on my good side now, and I'm going to leave them alone forever." He just keeps hammering them because he knows they're
totally.
weak, because he knows he owns them. And that would be bad enough unto itself. But then for the next outlet to think, "Oh, well, this isn't going to happen to us. We're special. Like, he wouldn't possibly do that to us.
Right.
We're going to buy ourselves all the goodwill we want, and he'll never give us a hard time." Like, that's almost the more pathetic part.
Yeah, it's so true. And maybe we should talk. I think there's a little bit of a tie-in to what took place in Davos and Trump on the world stage. He continues to insult American allies. And I had a recent conversation with a diplomat, after that summit ended in Davos, and one of the takeaways that the Europeans are leaving that conference with is that flattery does not work. That actually flattery is the wrong approach to dealing with Donald Trump. That actually standing up to him, being firm with him, and drawing some red lines around him is the way to go. And it leads to the point of, I think, what the media should do in this country. Forget this bending the knee stuff and being soft with him. You've got to stand tough. And I think it's too bad that Brian, that folks are learning this lesson. What, now we're a year in and all the damage that's been done, but flattery doesn't work. Sucking up to him, bending the knee doesn't work.
Correct. This
Yeah,
this policy of appeasement for Trump has only
yeah,
emboldened him to the point where he now feels comfortable enough, because so many people have been kissing his ass for so long. He now feels comfortable enough to try and, not only invade a sovereign country, but invade and annex a NATO ally, which would effectively be a death knell for the the global alliance that's led to the longest period of peace and prosperity in world history.
yeah,
And so, no, this is not the right policy. And good on Mark Carney for going out there and saying what he said at Davos against Donald Trump. Good on Newsom for being out there and making sure to give a kick in the ass to these other European leaders to let them know that appeasement is not going to work for this guy.
yeah,
And the reality is Trump is not immune to pressure. He's not immune to public pressure. He's not immune to economic pressure. The fact that he relented on this Greenland annexation, or at least the tariffs on the Greenland annexation, is a response to the fact that the market tanked 2% over the course of 48
yes,
hours. And so he's still impacted by this stuff. He's still impacted by the No Kings protest. This doesn't just, slide right off him. He clearly has a problem with all of this stuff. He's clearly paying attention, and the fact that he's trying to quiet so many people, to silence so many people, to censor so many people, would only happen if he recognized rightly the impact that all these people have.
yeah. No, he had to taco on the tariffs, and it's obvious he's coming back with his tail between his legs because. I mean, look at the social media post he put out on Truth Social aimed at Mark Carney, who you mentioned, the Prime Minister of Canada. Dear Prime Minister Carney, please let this letter serve to represent that the Board of Peace is withdrawing its invitation to you regarding Canada's joining what will be the most prestigious board of leaders ever assembled at any time. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, blah, 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 blah. First of all, this Board of Peace reminds me of and I may be dating myself, Brian, you're a little younger than me, the Legion of Doom on the
Yeah.
Super Friends. Remember the bad guys? They had their own like Super Friends, but they were the bad Super Friends, the Legion. When Donald Trump is getting together with Putin and Xi and all the other dictators, and this is the Board of Peace, we really are living in the Orwellian 1984 upside down world. But your thoughts on, kicking Canada out of the Board of Peace,
I
whatever the hell
mean,
that is.
whatever will Canada do if they can't be on this board of peace alongside other defenders of democracy like Saudi Arabia, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Russia? I mean, it's a parody of itself. I mean, at this point, good on
Can we get Kim
Canada.
Jong Un? We should get Kim Jong Un in
Kim
there.
Jong Un, like, yeah, why not at this point? Canada, there's no world in which Canada would want to be in this. That's like
Yeah.
that, that's like me saying that I'm hereby uh uh you know de- rescinding my invitation to Taylor Swift to come to my birthday party. It's like she was not gonna come to my birthday party.
It's never going to
Canada's
happen.
not going to join this board of peace alongside monarchs, authoritarians, autocrats, like theocratic regime. I mean, it's just the whole thing is a joke, and
Yeah.
frankly, it should be. If we were still in a world with some modicum of shame, it would be embarrassing for the United States to be, in this upside down version of the Avengers, alongside these other autocratic countries with the audacity to call itself the Board of Peace. I mean, Russia is according to Trump so dangerous as to warrant needing to annex Greenland, and yet at the same
Yeah.
time they're a close enough ally to bring them alongside the U.S. to the on this Board of Peace. It just defies logic.
Right. And now Trump is saying, well, we just want pieces of Greenland. And by the way, I got this deal where I'm going to get pieces of Greenland. And it sounds like Putin saying he wants pieces of Ukraine. The
Yeah.
whole thing is nuts. And the Danes are saying, no, you can't have pieces of Greenland like that. That's not what we talked about. You're not getting that. And so it just I mean, one of the things that makes me think is that this is not over yet, this whole Greenland thing. And I know people say it's a major distraction. It's the Epstein files and everything else. I grant you that may all be the case. But at the same time, it's just going to continue to destabilize this alliance if he just continues with this nonsense.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
autocrats and dictators famously stop after they just get a piece of what they want. That's what we've learned from history. Look,
Yes.
I think that this is a very, you know, tenuous attempt by Trump to claim to like try and kind of pull back from his maximalist position that he put
Yes.
forward at the beginning. And so he basically presents this thing as, okay, I want all of Greenland. And then if he can relent a little bit and say, okay, I just want a piece of Greenland, somehow it'll seem moderate or measured by comparison. But annexing a sovereign country and a NATO ally is not moderate, whether you're taking the whole thing or whether you just want a chunk of the country. That's not how it works. And good on the Danes, good on the folks in Greenland for recognizing that and not relenting or allowing Trump to shift the Overton window where it feels like, okay, well, as long as he just takes 10% of our country, then it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm going to talk with the former Defense Secretary Leon Panetta later today, and I'm anxious to hear what he has to say about this. I mean, when Trump goes out there and he's insulting the NATO allies and saying, "Well, they weren't really on the front lines in the war in Afghanistan," as if they didn't suffer any casualties or deaths during the war in Afghanistan. I mean, it's just nuts, and it's just so insulting. It's so damaging to all these these very important relationships that we have around the world.
Yeah.
And but we should, Brian. I don't want to give short shrift to Minneapolis while I have you here, because again today we're seeing more crazy videos coming out of the Twin Cities, just insane stuff. There's also the situation of the little boy Liam, the 5-year-old boy who was arrested by ICE. He is in detention. By the way, little Liam is in jail. He's in detention in Texas. That's where Liam is right now. And there's Liam right there. And then the other thing we should show is, this is one of the more just outlandish pieces of video I've seen lately, Brian, which is there was a guy that they tackled, forced to the ground, and then they're pepper spraying him in the face. If we have that piece of video, we should play it and just talk about this. Look at this.
Back up! Back up! What are you doing? Back up!
Yeah, he's restrained right here. Totally restrained. They spray him in the face anyway.
What are you doing?
And I mean, this is sadistic shit, man.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I wish I had words to describe the depravity of what they're doing. The irony of Trump putting this whole idea for ICE forward as if they're going to be focused on hardened criminals when we've got a 5-year-old, being detained by multiple ICE officers. There was an elderly man who was brought out in St. Paul in like -8 degrees or whatever it was, Minnesota,
Yes.
the other day, and he was shirtless and like he was in his house, and they claimed that he had roommates that were sex offenders, and his family was like, this guy doesn't have roommates. He's like, he lives alone in his house. And so the whole thing is so depraved, and frankly, the American people can see that. I mean, the polling reflects that. You have a vast majority of Americans who are saying consistently that ICE is going too far. There's nobody who signed up for this lawless, rogue, secret police force. I mean, this is something that Republicans, that conservatives have staked their entire brand on for
Right.
decades, that we've been hearing about how we need the Second Amendment, especially because of the threat of a tyrannical government. And I think in their minds that it would happen at the hands of like these radical Marxist leftists. But the reality is it took the most conservative administration to deploy these lawless secret police onto the streets in America. It's happening at the hands of Trump. And
Right.
and yet all of the same people who bemoaned the prospect of tyranny descending upon the streets and raining hell upon the cities and communities, they're silent in the face of all of this because, God forbid, they say an ill word of the God King and be on the receiving end of a mean tweet.
Yeah, and on top of everything, I mean, they're insisting that they can go into your home without a warrant signed by a judge. They say that they can go into your home with an administrative warrant, which is not the same thing.
It's
And
basically them policing themselves.
that's right. That's right. And NBC was reporting not too long ago that they've been doing this for months now, that this has been going on for a long time. And, I think the point that you made is absolutely perfect. I've been talking about this on my show too, which is the Republicans have been screaming about this forever, that Obama or Biden, they were going to send the police to your house and come get your guns. They were going to come into your house, violate your constitutional rights. And now it's the Republicans who are doing it, and they're not stopping Donald Trump from doing it. They just passed this DHS funding bill, which is going to continue to do it. And, there's no end in sight.
I mean, how many times did we hear that Biden was coming to your house to take your gas stove? Like, I mean,
Right,
it was
that's
like
right.
it ranges from the farcical, which is like the gas stove stuff, to the not so farcical, which is probably very much them raising the alarm about what's happening right here. But either way, I mean, my God, we've heard this for so long. You've not had any Democrat who's sending any police out onto the streets, but now it's happening at the hands of this administration, and they're perfectly content to allow it to happen. I mean, ICE unto itself would have one of the biggest military budgets on the entire planet. And this is an agency that's proving on a daily basis that they are inept, incompetent, unqualified, and frankly dangerous, and should not be
Yeah,
carrying the weapons that they're carrying. Renee Good is a testament to exactly that.
that's right.
And again, the only silver lining here is that Americans are not blind to what they're seeing, despite the best efforts from this administration, and the polls, are a reflection on that. But I think the important thing to note here, and we've got the polls right here on the screen.
Yeah, look at these numbers right here. I mean, Brian, the best number that he has is on Venezuela, but only 41% approve of that. On immigration, he's at 41%, but 57% disapprove. I mean, nearly 6 in 10 Americans. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a strong segment of the independents in this country, and it goes down. I mean, on economy and cost of living, that's what he was allegedly elected on: my eggs, my milk, my
Yeah.
gas, my hamburgers. And
And I think that's the important part to dig in on here,
yeah,
because this behavior by ICE and the funding of ICE doesn't happen in a vacuum. The funding for ICE comes at the expense of something else. And we saw in the One Big Beautiful Bill that the administration and the Republican Party were perfectly content to strip funding for Medicaid recipients, 17 million Medicaid recipients who won't have access to Medicaid. They were perfectly content to strip funding to the tune of $186 billion for food assistance. Right now, we just saw them refuse to extend the ACA subsidies for 24 million Americans.
right.
But there's all this funding now for ICE. There's all this funding so that these people can go into the homes of senior citizens and rip them out of the homes. There's all this funding so that they can detain the violent criminals that are 5-year-old children wearing backpacks. There's all this funding for all of that, and yet no funding to protect earned benefits, no funding to protect healthcare, no funding to protect food assistance. This administration is putting on a clinic in what their priorities are. And whereas they conned people into thinking that they were going to focus on the little guy, that they were going to bring costs down, lower the price of rent and housing and groceries and eggs. They got so granular that they were talking about the price of individual eggs. Now that they've got power, all that funding is stripped away, and instead they're focused solely on terrorizing communities with these ICE officers. They're focused on encrusting the Oval Office in gold, buying themselves retrofitting of Qatari jets, hosting crypto dinners, Great Gatsby parties at Mar-a-Lago. I mean, you could
They
not.
dressed up as dogs. They had a party where they were dressed up as dogs. Did you see that? Was nuts too.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
it's crazy. But I guess the question is, in your mind, because you've been on this, forefront of doing a progressive show in independent media, and you've had lots of great interviews with just about everybody under the sun. What's your sense of where things should go? How the party should handle this? What they should be driving towards heading into the fall? I mean, we saw yesterday there were like 7 Democrats who joined to fund ICE, but there are lots of. I mean, a big chunk of the Democratic Party right now says abolish ICE.
Yeah.
And to your point just a few moments ago, where's the discussion on Obamacare? Where's the discussion on preventing hospitals from being closed and so on? I mean, we got to get to these bread and butter issues too.
I think it would be, look, I think the hard part is you don't want to seem like a robot and not talk about all of the things that are happening right now and just doing the thing that politicians usually do, which is like, okay, cost of living is going to be our thing. So even though all of this crazy shit's happening, we're not going to talk about ICE. We're not going to talk about Greenland because we want to talk about, kitchen table issues and the cost of living. And I think that's a mistake, because if you're going to sound like a robot, I think the smarter thing to do is to acknowledge all of these things, acknowledge the depravity of all of these things, but then tie it back to the fact that this is what this administration's priorities are. I mean, this is where their focus is. We all know Trump. If Trump wants to get something done, he's going to get it done. He's not going to allow prosecutors to stand in his way, judges to stand in his way, courts to stand in his way, the laws, the Constitution. If this guy wants to do something, he gets it done, which underscores the fact that when we're not seeing anything done on high prices, when we're not seeing anything done on healthcare, on jobs, on the stuff that actually impacts Americans, it's because it's a conscious choice by Donald Trump. He doesn't give a shit. That's why he's not doing any of these things.
He
That's why
doesn't
his
want to be a
focus
dictator on things that matter to you. That's
on
what
any
it is. Yeah.
doesn't want to touch anything that matters to regular people.
Yeah.
He is solely focused on himself, on making sure that he's surrounded by enough opulence and gold, that his bottom line is padded, that he's increasing his net worth,
Yeah.
and he's putting that on full display. There's no way to hide that stuff. You
Yeah.
cannot, in good faith, say that you've cut healthcare for tens of millions of people, but that it was more important to make sure that you have gold leafing in the Oval Office without kind of giving the whole game away.
Yeah, and he also tweet, and I'm not going to put all the stupid shit that he posts, but he was posting pictures of the arc that or the arch or whatever it is that he wants to build. I mean, it's just it's comical, and I mean, I want to laugh, but we shouldn't laugh because it is kind of tragic that this is the president and he's basically losing his mind is what's happening right now.
I think it's perfectly valid to put that stuff up and to let
Yeah.
people know what's happening, because Americans aren't dumb. Like, they can see that when their costs are going up and his focus is on building a Trump arch, that
Yeah.
okay, this is happening at the expense of something else.
That's crazy. And just finally, where is independent media going from here? It seems to me, I mean, Substack just announced that you're going to be able to watch Substack on Apple TV and Google TV and all these various apps that you get on your TV. I mean, I think that's a big development. YouTube, where you are and have a huge presence, I'm there too, but you have a huge presence there, and it's continuing to explode. It's just incredible. Where do you think all this is heading?
Look, I think there's no doubt that the dominance of independent media is going to continue to explode. We've seen more people are watching YouTube now than are watching linear television,
Yeah.
and frankly, it's sad to say, but I think in a lot of ways, legacy media is kind of hastening their own demise by engaging in this stuff, that like what we've
Yes.
seen with CBS. Again, like, this is an audience that you've built up an audience that has an expectation for some degree of facts, and when you kind of try to gaslight these people right to their faces, especially the people who are watching legacy media are usually higher information folks, higher information voters, and so they know, like, they can see this stuff happening. They know because they've watched enough media coverage on those same networks to see when it's happening to the network that they're then consuming. And so, if they want to hasten their own demise, that's on them. But I think that legacy media is doing, while they do that, it's going to be up to independent media to pick up the slack and fill that void. And look, we've had, I do what I do because I got tired of the both sidesism that I saw from
Yeah.
legacy media for so long. I think that finally has kind of sunk in, that people don't want to see, okay, well, both sides are just as bad, because while we have, the American Gestapo marching through the streets, you have, a Democrat who did, whatever you have to point to make it seem like you're
Yeah.
pandering to both sides equally. I think people are
Right.
tired of that, which is not to say that Democrats shouldn't be criticized, because I think they should be and they can be. And I think the DHS funding bill, there were a handful of Democrats who voted for that, and that absolutely deserves criticism as well. But I think more broadly, there is a desperate need for a progressive media ecosystem to take on a very well-funded, a very well-established right-wing media ecosystem that has served as basically the propaganda arm for the Republican Party for the better part of a decade, with no response from the left. And so I think that if the left is able to kind of get their voices out there, whether it's from folks like you, to creators on TikTok or Instagram, whatever it may be, more is more, and the more voices we have, the better.
Yeah. And collaborating like this is so important. Getting to speak to different audiences and just expanding the pie. I mean, Heather Cox Richardson was on with me one time, and she talked about an independent news community. And I think that's just so perfect, because you're so right. People are so frustrated, and these legacy media outlets, they're doing it to themselves.
Yeah.
They're doing it. If they're wondering why the CBS Evening News has lost 20% of its audience over the last couple of weeks, it's because you have an anchor on there going, "We salute you, Marco Rubio." Nobody wants to hear that shit on the CBS Evening News.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it's great, and
Yeah.
I'm glad. I've seen the way that this community has kind of embraced all the other players, and I think that's great.
Yeah.
And I think that there should not be a scarcity mindset, because there's enough room for everybody. This is like the perfect example of a rising tide lifts all ships. I think that the more we can help everybody else's audience grow, the more that when new people come in and log
Yes.
onto YouTube, log onto Substack, they're not automatically sorted into big right-wing networks. I think that helping grow all of these progressive networks is only gonna lead to more people tuning into this stuff and not falling down any right-wing rabbit holes.
Absolutely. We've got enough rabbit holes. We need to avoid those at all costs. But Brian, great to see you, man. I'm so glad we do this. Let's do it again sometime soon.
love to.
And I hear you have a birthday to get to tonight, so I'll let
That's
you go. But best of luck. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jim. Talk to you soon.
Good to see you. Thanks so much. Brian Tyler Cohen. And he is just lighting it up on YouTube. And I'm sure everybody who's watching right now is already aware of that. They're like, yeah, no shit, Jim. We already know Brian. He's great. He's amazing. As Brian was just saying there a few moments ago, it was the perfect segue. It's almost as if he knew exactly who I have coming on next. But Brian was talking about the right-wing media ecosystem and how it is just completely dominant right now when it comes to the media that we have in our lives. I mean, Fox is just the tip of the iceberg. You have all those little mini Foxes that are on vertical TV, on regular TV, but you also have so many other conservative media outlets, and it's important to have that discussion. And one person who's just been really leading the charge on this, doing a terrific job of holding these folks accountable, is Juliet Jeske with Decoding Fox News. Are you saying, Juliet, you can't hear me? No, you can't hear me?
I can't hear.
You can't hear me? Okay.
The audio went out.
The audio went out. Okay. We have been seeing this issue a little bit this week. I'm going to say drop off and go back in, and we'll get her back in. But Juliet, I was just seeing her message just a few moments ago. So if you're wondering, why is Jim slowing down as he's talking? I'm seeing Juliet send me a message saying, I can't hear Jim. And so we're trying to get rid of those technical gremlins as we speak. But the thing that Brian was talking about the right-wing media ecosystem, it's so very important. And Juliet with Decoding Fox News, I mean, she's been really tackling this nonstop. She and I've talked about this before. We'll talk about it in just a moment when she comes back on here. That might be Juliet right there.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, the audio just cut out and I didn't know what happened. So I just went out and back in.
It's been one of those weird weeks where it feels like, is Stephen Miller like hitting a button somewhere in some control room? I don't know. It could be. God, you just never know. But Brian Tyler Cohen and I were just having this conversation, and he brought up Fox, and he brought up the right-wing media ecosystem that's out there and how they're just causing all these problems. And, you flagged for me, earlier this week, that there I was again on Fox. They were ragging on me. And I'm like, one of the things they like to say is, Jim, you don't matter anymore. You suck. You've been blown out of the water. Trump got rid of you. But yet they talk about me on Fox.
Constantly. It's like they find ways. My favorite is when they just show your face and they don't actually talk about you. It's just your face in a graphic. Or one time on Fox and Friends, they used your guest. They talked about your guest, and there you were on the screen, but they didn't mention you. It was
like I trigger some old MAGA people. Is that what it is, or something? They're just like, this will trigger our audience.
Yeah, I think they're trying to. I think they post about you for the audience of one, and that audience would be Donald J. Trump.
Ah, yes.
That's my theory, because
Trump is watching. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just whenever they can just stick your face, because he used your image once in one of his goofy. I remember it was at Mar-a-Lago, and a woman was singing a song about how the election was stolen. It was insane. It was a terrible song, and she was like, the election was stolen, and then they had this graphic on the screen, and then just your face, just there you were.
Yeah. I must make him spit out his Metamucil or something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He starts throwing ketchup. But let's look at I want to talk about what Jesse Waters has been doing to gaslight the world, but let's show this quick. You've now dubbed this Acosta watch, which I don't talk about myself in the third person because I'm not that kind of person, I swear to God. But you did make this thing, and it's really hilarious. We should show it if we have it.
Acosta watch. There you go.
I would just hold my water sometimes, and just for strength, I would look at this one reporter in particular and just flip the bird.
Did Acosta ever find out?
No, it was under. I told it in my book afterwards. It wasn't Acosta.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one because it's quick, it's fast.
Very quick.
Also, Greg Gutfeld, it's so weird.
Like, why, man?
Why, man? Why?
Well, because
exactly.
I want to do a series of them because today they were talking about, well, this week they were talking about Michelle Obama really for no reason. It was like,
For no reason.
on my spreadsheet, because I keep track of every single segment, it will say, sometimes it'll say Michelle Obama said something, because that's in the subtopic, and then the topic is Democrats are terrible. But I do that because it's like, it doesn't matter what she says. They're like, oh my, she said something. And like, they do it to Rosie. And it's just, there's people that they just pick on for no reason. And I'm like, yeah.
But one of the reasons why I thought it was important that we talk is that they've been spinning themselves into overdrive, trying to justify what Trump did over in Davos, to try to build him up as somebody who had this big win over there, even though he's coming back with his tail between his legs. He has this security agreement that is basically what we already have in NATO.
Yes.
Completely pointless.
Yes.
But Jesse Waters on the 5, and he has his own primetime show. If you don't have enough Jesse Waters at 5, you can get him at some other time. But he was talking about how this was a master, stroke of genius on Trump's part. And he was talking about the moon or something. What was?
Yeah. Oh, yes. He claimed that we owned the moon. We mean the United States, and he was emphatic about this. Oh, yeah.
But we don't own the moon, right?
No, we don't own the moon. No one owns the moon. I thought that was just common knowledge. But Jesse Waters also once asked, and then fought with a producer on his show. He said, "Do trains have wheels?" And somebody was like, "Yeah," and he goes, "I don't think they do. No, I don't think they." And I'm like,
he's not the smartest one. He's not the brightest.
I'm like in my apartment screaming at my computer when he does this. But no, he like fought with the person, and I'm like, I can't. I can't.
Well, let's play the moon bite. If we have the moon bite, we should play it.
I got the moon.
Classic.
I think we own it, and I know we own it.
Nobody owns the moon, man.
No, nobody owns the moon.
Can we send Jesse to the moon?
We should send Jesse to the moon.
I think we own it, and
I know we're spending money on lots of stupid shit right now, but I would pay personally for a rocket ship to blast him to the moon,
straight to the moon,
never to come back.
Never to come back. No,
But the one and this is the one that to me takes the cake. Is the Daddy's Back one. We should watch that one.
And this is my original edit.
And he's bringing home the bacon. Davos rolled out the red carpet, but Trump's a realist and he can read a room. Daddy can be great until you misbehave. Then you need him to whip you into shape. You might think Daddy's being mean, but when you're older, you realize that Daddy knows best. Trump's like, you live in my home, you're on the family phone plan, we have dogs that you never take care of. You said you would, but you never do. A little appreciation would be nice.
First of all, a lot of this doesn't make any sense. But you decode Fox. That's your thing. What is he saying? Do we know?
Oh, well, the daddy theme was kind of throughout the whole week, but that was from one show, just one episode. He's basically, because the Secretary General called Trump daddy, and that was sort of in a weird.
This was like a daddy thing. And Trump talked about daddy too, right?
And Trump got obsessed with that because Trump was using daddy as a metaphor in what he was talking about, and so the NATO guy wanted to sort of ingratiate himself, because they're just desperately trying to if we praise him, if we flatter him, we can manipulate him, right? So he goes, "Oh, well, you're like daddy," and then Trump just ran with that. And then Fox, because they're trying again to please Trump's ego and boost him as much as possible, but especially Jesse Waters, because Jesse Waters has just layers of creepiness about him.
There's creepiness,
just layer upon layer upon layer of creepy. He was
him saying "daddy."
Yeah,
is I don't like to think about that.
Yeah, it's very creepy because he uses sexual references for no reason all the time. But he he just starts going, well, hey daddy, and then he turns this whole, like, all this entire week everything has been about, Trump being the strong figure, and in Jesse Waters' mind, daddy, and he's scolding his children, which is the other countries in NATO, and he keeps playing with it. It gives on. I'm going to make a larger edit of it, but it's this whole bizarro world of trying to suck up to make Trump happy, because if Trump's not happy, he starts lashing out at Fox, and which he's done. And again, present him as this kind of master of the world, this kingmaker of the world. He's the puppet master, and everyone's just kowtowing to him and cowering beneath him. When really, if anybody watched his Davos speech, you're stifling laughter or
Yeah.
concerned that he keeps calling Greenland Iceland. I mean, it's a
Yeah, I mean,
nightmare.
and that's part of what Fox does.
Yeah.
Fox is there to take reality and turn it into propaganda. And
Yes.
they've got to figure out a way. They've got to figure out the talking points. They have to feed the anchors the scripts to talk about it in a certain way, so it looks like he's always winning. And the weird thing about what I've noticed about Jesse and a couple of clips that he played is that he just sounds like Trump. They think they have to talk to him, I guess, through the TV. Yeah, you okay, Jesse, is the Chiron. But he almost feels like he has. It's not just performing for the audience one, but it's sort of as the audience of one, as Donald Trump.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
different level of narcissism that they're
Kind of-
feeding into.
Kind of, you would call it like mirroring, sort of, I guess.
Mirroring.
Mirroring, like that's an acting technique. Weirdly, when you mirror somebody's behavior, you mirror their body language, you mirror the way they speak, and it's a way to sort of connect with that person. It's actually weirdly a negotiation tool. People do it in sales. Weirdly, I always freak out when someone does it to me, because I figure it out and I'm like, what are you doing?
I know. It's so strange, but they've been doing this all week long on Fox, and I mean, it's important for people to recognize, because this was a really disastrous week for Donald Trump. I mean, he pissed off our NATO allies, talked about things like, they didn't really suffer any casualties during the war in Afghanistan, that they weren't on the front lines. I mean, now Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, is completely pissed off about that. The Danes are furious, and it takes a special kind of propagandist to make this look good back home. This is what they do.
It is amazing, because I wowould think anybody objectively would watch. Just the speech he gave before he went to Davos was 2 hours long, and it was rambling and made no sense.
Yes.
And he went on these bizarre tangents that didn't make any sense. And then he gets to Davos and tells this incredibly insulting speech. I mean, I was yelling profanities at my computer throughout a lot of it, because when he's like, NATO would never step up for us, and I'm like, 9/11, buddy, 9/11. They stepped up for us immediately. They lost 850 troops for the non-US NATO countries. Denmark had the highest percentage per capita deaths in Afghanistan next to us. We only beat them because we stayed in the war a lot longer.
Right.
But
Yeah, 457 for the Brits. 457 Brits died in Afghanistan, 165 Canadians, and 44 Danes. As you said, they had the most per capita. But yeah, I mean, you're right.
Denmark has the population approximately of my home state, where I'm from originally, Missouri. So it's a very small country. The Scandinavian countries don't have big populations. It's Norway's 5 million, Sweden's 10 million, Denmark's like 6 million, and I think Finland is around 6 million. I'm apologizing if I'm getting Finland wrong, but I know the other three off the top of my head. And so these are small countries. So for them to lose 45 men in a war that they didn't have to, because but that's NATO. That's supposed to be the spirit of NATO. Article 5, collective defense. And for him to be so disrespectful, I mean, I personally find the line of "you'd all be speaking German" horribly offensive, because of the sacrifice of the other allied nations, and the fact that I view World War II as 100% a team effort. There's no possible way it's so insulting to the other allied countries who lost so much.
That's why we had the allied forces.
Yes. The other thing that Trump seems to not realize because he thinks like a child is one of the reasons why the US had, booming economy and was able to turn into this industrial powerhouse after World War after World War II, is the rest of the world was decimated. And we
Yes.
had Pearl Harbor, which was horrific, but our cities were not bombed. So we
Yes.
did, we were able to just spring right back. And Europe was just, largely destroyed. And Japan was destroyed, and Asia was destroyed. It was just a horrific, horrific thing. And
Yeah.
I just find him just everything he's been saying just so incredibly offensive and awful. And
Well, for it to come from him, a
yeah,
draft dodger. He's a
yes,
draft dodger. He had
yes,
5 draft deferments. He is Captain Bone Spurs.
hmm
And, for him to go out there and say, well, they didn't serve on the front lines, which is a lie.
yeah, total
I
lie.
mean, it's awfully rich, and that's being nice. It's awfully disgusting coming from him, honestly, for him to make those kinds of comments. But and it would have hurt somebody at Fox once to just call that out. I mean, he's saying it to Maria Bartiromo's face. I think it was Maria Bartiromo,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And she used to be somebody normal on CNBC. And now she's on Fox. She just has had the Kool-Aid, and
yeah.
she just goes along with it. And he could just spew lie after lie to any of these anchors, and they don't say anything. It's
I
just
think, yeah,
crazy.
it's very disturbing how they also don't ever push back on things that are incredibly easy to look up.
Yeah.
When there's just the NATO line, it's like, how do you not know that? I remember I live in New York. I've lived in New York it's going to be 25 years in April 1st. And
Wow.
I lived here during 9/11, and I had the ashes in my windowsill in Brooklyn, 3 miles
Mm.
away. So just
Yeah,
anything
our
like,
generation lived through it. We went
yeah,
through it. Yeah.
I remember it. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember the fact that NATO scrambled and immediately the rest of NATO came to our aid immediately. And I remember how much that meant to me as a New Yorker. Uh, just tremendous. And for him
Yeah.
to be so insulting, yeah, it's been a rough week. And I just think he looks like a buffoon, like a clown.
Yes.
And Fox is just cheerleading everything he says and does. And it's just been astonishing. It's like it's like 2 realities. That's
It really is.
the best way I
Well,
can put it.
I know, and they've become state TV, and that's why what you do, Juliet, is so important. And keep us posted on those Acosta watches. Again, I don't like to refer to myself in the third person
Yes.
because it sounds ridiculous, but I do love the Anchorman
It's an
reference.
Anchorman reference. Yes.
And
I
to
love that
watch.
movie. I'm
I
a
love
huge
that movie
fan.
too. We all love that. Again, it's our generation. For some reason, I was flipping around on the channels 2 nights ago, and Old School was on, and I just had to sit there. I was like halfway through, and it was the scene when Will Ferrell's running through the streets butt naked, and I had to just sit there and watch the rest of the movie. And I had like the best time I've had in a really long time. And that era, it was like just so that's what we grew up with, folks.
Yep.
For the kids out there who are wondering,
Gen X.
yeah, Gen X. We were the badasses at one point. Now we're fucked like everybody else. But now we just want the kids to do it for us.
So true.
But Julia, great to see you as always. Keep us posted on all those watches that you do.
Yes. Thanks for having me. It was great.
All right, sounds good. See you soon. Thanks, Julia. Really appreciate it. And gosh, that Jesse, he is creepy. It's so true. It's so weird. And Greg Gutfeld. I mean, I guess, do you guys remember when I started all of this? It was almost a year ago. By the way, we're coming up on 1 year, the 1-year anniversary of this show here on Substack and YouTube and Apple Podcasts and all the places in my foray into independent media. And one of the things that happened almost immediately when I started this was like Greg Gutfeld was making fun of a plant that I had in the background. And it was not the best looking plant, but I think I just sort of in an impromptu way started doing Substack and people said, oh, just start doing it. I was like, okay, I'll just start doing it. And there's a weird plant behind me. And Greg Gutfeld actually spent time on his primetime program on Fox talking about it. Flash forward to January of 2026, nearly 1 year later, and he's still talking about me on one of those stupid shows that they have over there, The Five, which is like the dumbest of all the Fox shows, because it's like, each of those hours on Fox, it's usually just one idiot talking into the camera and saying stupid things and spewing propaganda. And then at 5 o'clock every day, they have this thing called the Five, where 4 of the idiots get together and they all, or 4 or 5 of the idiots get together and they all sort of do the same thing. There's one lady there who speaks the truth. Can't remember her name, but she's really good. But the others are just completely stupid. And Greg can't give it up. He keeps talking about me, Greggy. It's just not going to happen, man. You're going to have to come to grips with the fact that it's just not going to happen. I appreciate you holding that candle for me and letting that candle burn, but it is time to blow out the candle. It's just not going to happen. But thank you for letting me live rent-free in your head for one whole year. It has been nice living in your head all this time. The other thing I should point out is in about 45 minutes, I'm looking at the clock there on the screen in my little studio here. About 45 minutes from now, I'll be sitting down with the Defense Secretary of the past, I believe during the Clinton administration, in the Obama administration. Leon Panetta will be joining me, and Leon is going to be joining me to talk about all kinds of things, especially Trump's trip to Davos and these really big problems that we're having in this country right now, where, I mean, Trump is completely pissed off and alienated all of our allies. I'll have the former defense secretary, former CIA director. He was a chief of staff at one time. He was chief of staff to Bill Clinton, and then CIA director and defense secretary under Obama. But a really great, sharp political and national security mind. Really looking forward to talking to Leon Panetta. That's in 45 minutes from now here on Substack. So we're going to jump off now and then come back at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. And so smoke them if you got them, or it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So crack open a cold one, and we'll reconvene here in about 45 minutes with the former defense secretary, Leon Panetta. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching. Still reporting from Washington, I'm Jim Acosta. See you in just a bit.